as an international superstar is getting tiresome. I'm much too pretty for all this work. Hey guys, how's it going, eh? Todd the Cheap Drums guy. Hiding from what's-her-face down here in the dungeon. So, a while back I did a video on somewhat rare or just old, crappy old cymbals. And in that video, there was an 18 or 20 inch ride cymbal. I'm not exactly sure what size it was, but it was made by Camber out of Canada. And it's brass. The sound was lacking on it. I didn't know what to do with it. I don't have brass cymbals, although there is kind of a set that I'm interested in England that's made for gear for music that I'm kind of interested in, just because it's very inexpensive, and it's just to have a second set of cymbals, like a practice set, if you will. So I ain't got to keep pounding on my Pisces. Although they're, nothing wrong with these, they hold them up very well and they sound great, but it's also just a different sound. But these cymbals are kind of strange the way they're lathed, because they got like both the patina look on the upper half, and then the rest is a real nice, brilliant finish. But they're like, what are they called? CZ2 or something like that. Gear for Music makes it, and the whole set is like $192. And with that set, you get a 16 and 18 crash, 20 inch ride, 14 inch hi-hats, and also a 10 inch splash. And it's kind of a neat little set. And they sounded all right. They sounded like brass cymbals usually do. And I've heard, over time on YouTube, I've heard most of the brass cymbal sets and what they sound like, with headphones on. And most of them sound like crappy brass cymbals, but these actually sounded a little bit better. And I think that two-tone appearance to them added a lot to that. But going back to the Camber, my God, this poor cymbal. I've molested and abused this thing so bad. It's been squeezed, pleased, teased, and diseased. And frankly, I'm getting tired of working on it. It's been a struggle. I'm trying to change the appearance of it greatly. And if you go back and watch the video, you saw what it'll look like. But anyways, off and on, when I had time, when I felt destructive, I went into the garage and I took a belt sander to it. Yeah, a belt sander. So I'm trying to get all the grooves off it. And I cut holes in it and drilled more holes and then widen the holes and trying to see what this thing sounds like. So after my last experience of beating on this poor red-haired stepchild, I just decided that's enough for now. I still have to clean it up with the belt sander, get the remaining lathing marks off it, and then start sanding it so it's nice and smooth and shiny and actually looks worthy of putting on any drum set. Once it's sanded and polished up, it should look nice, and I'll put a clear coat on top of it to protect it. So I'm not a fan of the patinas or wherever, but anyways, sitting here at Bumblebee or Candy Stain, whatever you want to call it. I'm still trying to get used to the finish of this. I still don't know what to make of it. It's interesting and it's different, and I guarantee there's no other drum set out here like that. So I've got that going for me, and it's kind of neat. Since I came down and looked at it today, it's interesting how the light and dark stains have, as the dividing lines in between them, it's kind of softened it a little bit, and it looks a little better today than it did last night. Then again, I was tired, I was cranky. and I was just plain done with it. But anyways, I thought, well, I'm going to give up on that Camber cymbal for now. I'll get back to it later, I'm sure. But I want to show you the train wreck that this cymbal has become. And since it's been about a week since I've touched it last, the metal has settled down, the molecules have done whatever they're doing, and so you and I both can hear what it sounds like for the first time. And do not hate me for this, but this is what she looks like so far. Yeah. If there ever was an ugly cymbal, that's one of the ones right there. But you can see there's still a lot of the lathing marks that I haven't finished taking off right along the edge. But considering how rough the lathing on it was initially, it's amazing how much I got off. And I actually took quite a bit of weight off the cymbal. But again, it's a brass cymbal. You see the bottom hasn't, I haven't touched the bottom with the lathing. I didn't want to. It's hard enough trying to get it all off the front. And I wish I had something a little bit stronger so I could actually make my own lathe. But anyways, let's hear first what this thing sounds like. And in the disclaimer, I am not financially responsible for or liable for anything that might happen to your ears. So, and then after I do this, I'll tell you a little story about strange animals in Germany, like leopards and tigers. But let's give it a sound check here. Again, I'm not responsible for what happens to your ears. This was an 18 or 20 inch, I think it looks like, by the looks of it, I think it's an 18-inch Camber Canadian made ride. But I'm trying to make it into a trash crash, so here we go. That's enough. More gong-like than anything else. It's kind of weird. I'll keep dinking around with this. And you know, maybe I'll just say bag it on doing the rest of trying to take off the rest of the lathing. Maybe I'll just sand it nice and smooth and see what I can do. I might add a few more holes to it though, but I'm trying to make it more of a lighter, tinnier sound. But I'll have to look up on YouTube. What's the guy? The Cymbal Project. Lance Campo, I believe his name is. My God, that guy's good. That guy's real good. But I watched him and I'm like, you know, well, I wish I could do the same things he could do. But anyways, that's what I got so far. And that's that 18-inch Camber brass ride. Let me tell you a little story since we're here. And by the way, everybody, Happy New Year 2023. And hopefully this year is better than the last couple. Oh my God, what a nightmare. But anyways, when I got orders for overseas for the first time in Germany, I was excited. And I had never been overseas before at that time. And I'm a young guy, 22 years old, 23, around there somewhere. And this was 1989. And it was real exciting because all my life with my father, I watched shows like Hogan's Heroes and stuff like that. And I was a big war movie buff buff as was my father. He was a great guy, and he got me turned on to war movies and stuff like that. And I always thought it was really interesting. Um, Not so much the action, I just like the history of things. And a lot of the books up here, 3/4 of the books up here are military history and World War II and stuff like that. I'm not harboring any ill tidings to what happened, so long ago, because everybody pretty much is long since passed on. But the history of it, especially Germany, it was really intriguing to me. So I got to Germany, and I'm kind of a stranger in a strange land, but it's a Western society and not unlike ours. And I was stationed in Hanau, and at the time it was West Germany. The Berlin Wall was still up and all that crap, and the Russians were still bad guys over there on the other side. But it was real interesting. Beautiful country. The people were wonderful. And like a lot of soldiers want to go around jumping the bars and all that kind of crap. And I really wasn't into that scene. What I did when I got there, one of the first things I did was buy a mountain bike, because Germany is just covered in trails and hiking paths and whatnot. And it's really neat. But, and after all those years of watching war movies with my dad, and I really wanted to get out and see the remnants from the past war, even though at that time it had been over 40 years, 50 years or so. But, there's still going to be something out there. We lived in Hessen-Homburg Kaserne in downtown Hanau at a former Prussian railway barracks. And it was pretty cool. And you could see a lot of the Nazi regalia stuff, like molded into the building stuff, had been removed. And it just looked like a normal German barracks building. And but outside the post, where we traveled to another caserne, which is a post in Germany called Pioneer Caserne, we had to travel through Lamboy Woods. And it was a nice path going over the river, through the woods and stuff like that. And I got there in the middle of summer, and all the green was out. You really didn't notice anything traveling up and down this trail until like fall set in and all the leaves fell down. And then you start seeing it. You see these big, huge depressions all along the trail, all through the area, and it looked really strange. And I'm thinking, what the hell is that? And so I go to inspect one, and then I look down the trail. They were parallel to the trail, kind of, and then I realized what it was. They were from bombs being dropped from the war. Now, Frankfurt was smart during World War II. When the American and British Air Forces came over and started doing the bomb runs, Frankfurt blacked out, but Hanau did not, unfortunately. And they bore quite a bit of a brunt of the bombing intended for Frankfurt. And it was neat seeing where these bombs had impacted so long ago. And so then, a little while, that was in the fall, but still in the summer, we ended up going to the field. And it was neat. We're down in Bavaria and Grafenwehr and Hohenfels. And there's a lot of things out there too. Like Hohenfels, to incorporate these training areas, they have these little towns in them that the towns were kind of abandoned, so they became part of the training areas anyways. And there's still quite a bit of a remnants. Like in Hohenfels, there's a beautiful old church called Kirchen Notenhart, which was really neat. And looked at that, and it had been damaged during the war, and no one's touched it, but they had it fenced off because the Germans didn't want anybody else messing with it. They just wanted to leave it as is. But Hohenfels, I had an opportunity to climb up through the hillsides and on the ridges and the spurs, and I would be inspecting for things. I would find World War II German trench lines that were still dug into the hillsides. Granted, they're not armpit deep anymore. They're only about a foot deep. But if you follow along the ridges, you could see these trench lines dug into the spurs. And then right at the end of the spur, where it rounds down the hill, there's a pillbox, concrete bunker. And I thought that was just the coolest thing. Oh my God, I was just eating it up. And it was scary. Because it was interesting because look what I had found. But it was scary when you start looking, and you go in that bunker and you look out the firing port and you see the area that it was covering. And it makes you wonder how many soldiers lost their lives, or maybe, just how many people had succumbed to withering fire out of this foxhole or a bunker before it had been taken down. And it's just really interesting. And the forest, the pines and the hardwoods there, very scary in Germany. There's always fog at night, it seems like. It was just ungodly beautiful. Between that and the weird cuckoos, birds all over the place. It was interesting. But I could see how a young soldier in World War II moving through this area, how terrifying it would be. Not only to worry about these hillsides and whatnot of an enemy bunker with possible fire coming down at you at any moment, but then you hear the sound of low rumbling and you feel the ground move and the tanks are coming. And it's like, oh my God, is it American tanks or is it German tanks? And well, if it's German tanks, it's like, oh crap. And I was sucking up all this. I mean, I was just eating it alive, and it was just filling, the back parts of my brain, the history section, and just all this information coming in. And I was sitting in Grafenwehr. We were at a weapons range, way off in the middle of nowhere. It was beautiful, thick German pines. I can't remember what kind of pines they were called, but it was just beautiful. And of course, it was foggy, and it was pitch black out. And I'm sitting there just taking all this in, and all the stuff that I've been exploring that day, and it was just crazy. And I'm thinking, what it would have been like fighting back then. And then I hear it. No biggie. There's a road 50 feet from me. Comes up over a hill, goes right past me, and goes around the corner, and then because that's where all the ranges were. There were tank gunnery ranges way down this way. We were at a M84 84 millimeter anti-tank range, I believe it was. I think we were firing the ET4 anti-tank missile at this range. And I was standing guard because we had live ammunition on it. But it got dark and the range was shut down for the night. And there was a number of us there watching the ammo stores. There was guys, back at the ammo building, and I was out watching the main gate. No one else could come in, unless they were authorized. So, but I'm standing out there, and oh my God, I was just amazed. I was just in awe. I said, look where I'm at. I'm down in Bavaria, in Germany. It's just really wondrous. And again, I heard something, and I didn't think nothing of it. It was getting closer. And I'm thinking, my God, I couldn't imagine walking over a hillside and stumbling on like a Panzer IV or a German Tiger E-tank sitting right there. And the sight of that for an infantryman must have been just horrid. Here comes a Tiger or a King Tiger. Well, what the hell are you going to do to it? Our bazookas aren't going to do nothing to it. And to see that German cross, it just must have been, with that big 88 millimeter cannon toward it, must have just been just terrifying. And I kind of enjoyed combat because it was exciting. But combat back then was a whole lot different. And so I'm standing there just still taking in what I've seen all that day to day on my explorations. And I keep hearing that sound. It's getting louder and louder and louder. And then by this time I realize it's a tank coming. But it didn't sound like an M1 tank. An M1 tank, M1 is a big, heavy beast. But that AGT 1500 gas turbine engine creates a very distinctive sound. This one is a big, a deep-throated sound of a diesel. And I knew it was something different. So I'm watching up the road where that hill comes up and it drops down. It's all thick pines right through there, and that mist, the ever-present mist and fog. And I'm watching, and then I see it just barely coming over the hill. It looked like two guys sitting up in the hatch of a tank. Usually you have the commander on one side and the loader on the other, and that's what this was. And I could see it. Well, it is a tank coming. And it starts coming up and up and over and over and over, and I see the outline of the turret and then the hull, and it starts coming down the hill towards me. And the turret turns a little bit. the guys aren't driving with white light, they're driving what they call blackout drive, which is like little pinpricks of light, just enough that the vehicle can kind of see its way, but doesn't create such, look at me, I'm a big target with these bright lights. But I could see that the turret was covered in camouflage nets, as was the barrel. So it kind of covered up its shape a little bit. But then when that tank turned, it moved. There it was, on the side of the tank. And my hair just stands right up on end. It was scary, and I mean, just the scene, it was like out of a Hollywood movie. Just the scene of this tank just coming up right towards you and then turn. And on the side of that turret was a black and white German cross, but different from the World War II cross. I believe this one, the Bundeswehr, I think, don't get me, don't quote me, but I think it was called the Balkenkreuz. It looks kind of like similar to the World War I German Blue Max. But I saw that mark on the side of the turret, and I realized this was a German tank. This was a Bundeswehr Leopard 2 tank. Big boxy turret, very strong tank, had a 120 millimeter Rheinmetall gun, and up on top there's the MG3 machine gun, which was derived from the MG42 of World War II. I think it was also derived from the FG42. I'm not sure, but really distinctive looking machine gun. And our M60 machine gun, the American M60 machine gun that came out in the 50s, was also based off the FG42. But I had such a lump in my throat, and my excitement was just intense, seeing this German Leopard go right by me. And as they were right there, I kind of gave a half salute, wave to them, and then they returned it back to me. But I just was sitting there dumbfounded. I mean, it was almost terrifying. Although the Bundeswehr, the German army, are fantastic soldiers. They have a fantastic army, and they're allies. But I couldn't, and I realized where I was at that time and what was going on. But I don't even want to imagine what it would have been like for a young troopy in World War II 50 years earlier, and watch over that hillside when a Tiger tank came over and seeing that big black and white cross. It was just scary, and I will never forget that scene for the longest I will ever live. It was just amazing. It was incredible, and so much emotion on just seeing that Leopard 2, and seeing, for the first time being in Germany, seeing members of the Bundeswehr. Again, fantastic army, fantastic soldiers, and I love working when I got a chance down the road to work with them. I love the guys. They're great. They love trading. They love American ball caps for some reason. But anyways, that was my horrible symbol. That was my horrible symbol, and you can't get your money back. You heard it, too late. And that was my little story about memories of watching war movies with my dad and somewhat modern day Germany. And my God, it's just cool stuff. But anyways, I'm Todd, the Cheap Drums guy. You guys have a great day, and Happy New Year to you. And I hope none of you guys got busted driving and doing stupid things, but you guys have a great day.